Yo, what's up and stuff, man? Man, my throat. Uh, this is a game. This is different than my other shit. All right, I'm gonna react to some journalism or whatever the fuck, game journalism. Primal Rage. It was this. I remember playing this fucking game in the video store. You know, back in the day, whenever I was a little kid, we had a Sega Genesis and we had a VHS. DVD wasn't a thing yet. DVD wasn't invented yet, or it wasn't at least a popular household product that people went out and just bought yet. It was probably already invented, like the technology was probably already there, but you get what I'm saying. We'd go to the VHS store to rent videos and rent Sega games, and they had an arcade there. While your mom was in the back looking at the adult fucking movies, which my mom would go back there to look at, which is weird now that I think about it. Like, man, my mom and dad were watching some fucking weird shit whenever I was a little kid with me, my brother and sister and stuff. My mom used to babysit. She was like a babysitter. My dad would go to work. She would like babysit, not babysit us, we were her kids, but like babysit some of the other neighborhood kids, and we'd all go to the video store, and this is the arcade that was at the video store, Primal Rage. And I remember just seeing the dinosaurs fight each other, and I was like super big in the dinosaurs and Jurassic Park and shit like that. So I'd always like beg for a quarter to like play that shit, and I had no idea what I was doing, man. No fucking idea, dude. And we eventually saw that they had the Sega Genesis version of it that you can rent, and we'd play that shit. And I'd always pick like the red T-Rex. Or, no, there was like a blue kind of raptor fucking guy, or a green guy that shot venom or something like that. Anyway, just a trip back to the good old days. The good old days where I was abused and my parents bought us Sega Genesis and other video game systems to try and make up for their lack of parenting skills and lack of affection, so they would buy us products instead of giving us physical attention. The good old days.
The arcade scene of the 90s was thriving in the earlier half of that decade, and during this time we'd have titans like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, Tekken, and many others making an appearance that would cement them as heavy hitters, not just for visuals but for mechanics as well. A game of this time that doesn't always get the attention it deserves is Primal Rage, the fighting game which focused on cutting-edge applications.
Sorry to interrupt it. I'm going to be talking a lot. The original video will be in the description below for the 30 of you that see this and want to not listen to me. Even when I ask people about this game today, like, it's very rare that somebody actually says they know what I'm talking about. Like, when I describe it, like you play a dinosaur and it's like a fighting game, but you're fucking dinosaurs and you can be like a monkey and shit. And the people in the background, you see those people back there that are cheering on their dinosaur? You can actually like pick them up and throw them or something like that. Not a lot of people know what I'm talking about. So this was one of those games where either you knew what it was and you played it, or you've never fucking heard of it.
Application of stop-motion animation, with an interesting cast of characters and many visual elements that are extremely well documented on the internet at this point. This was an ambitious title, especially for 1994 when it released. One thing is, though, is that
I was 4 years old in 94. Do the math.
visuals are often all that's discussed when talking about Primal Rage, which, to be fair, makes sense, because come on, for 94 this was one hell of a visual achievement. There is actually an impressively deep fighting game here, with a bunch more mechanics that you might expect, certain elements that other games of this time frame didn't really have, and from what I've been able to uncover is an interesting story of a development team that knew their stuff, and because of it, released a game with much more sophisticated features than one might expect. This was a large project, as to get things in place.
And you see that up on the top, and instead of the health bar, it's like a artery, and once you once you lose all this blood, the fucking heart stops. And I think, is this round 2? Is that your power bar? I don't even know what this brain, I don't remember what this brain one was. I don't remember what that one was for. But yeah, we were too little to understand the moves. We just button mash and shit like that, and then every now and then you do a special move and you're like, wow! I made a guy stab him with my tail.
Place, I've had the help of those directly involved in the game's development, community figureheads that know the insides and outs, and those that were around in the arcade era to tell me how the game really went down when it was at its absolute hottest. This is Primal Rage, a fighting game a lot deeper than you probably remember.
Yeah, okay.
I want to set the stage a little bit before I get into the mechanics.
Damn.
Story-wise, a meteor strike has devastated the Earth. Technology in its entirety is gone, and amidst the rubble, 7 creatures have risen to its entirety
what is that?
is gone, and amidst the rubble.
Big ass video game titties, dude. Oh shit! There's a person fucking in his mouth. I don't think I noticed any of this shit.
7 creatures have risen to wage war over control of the new Earth. These creatures are seen as gods who sport otherworldly abilities. The game has finishing moves, which are definitely not the same level of extreme violence as a Mortal Kombat, for instance, but has enough in there to really sell the identity of each character, and no doubt get a reaction from people at the arcade. Each character has a bunch of special moves that, again, cater to that character's identity, and we'll explain these in detail in just a moment. What we have here is a game that had never truly been done before on the visual side. The stop-motion animation, the hand-built puppets, it truly did blow people away back in '94. However, now I want to get into the fighting system, because if you know how to play Primal Rage at a high level, there is genuinely this entirely different fighting game beneath the visuals alone. Now, before I start talking about these mechanics, I want to introduce you to Steven Reisenberger. He was the production coordinator for Primal Rage during 1993, and I was lucky enough to sit down with him and really digest the title from a gameplay point of view. Now, he did mention very early on that this was a long time ago, so this, as I'm sure you'll understand, was going off of memory. But I thank him for his time all the same. Additionally, MKK Hanzo from Venezuela, who has helped me with a fair few old Mortal Kombats at this point, and is actually quite the authority on Primal Rage, as he's been a player of the game since the very beginning, and taught me everything that I know. It's a 4-button game, so you've got your basic buttons and normals from each one, but it is also a back-to-block fighting game. There's no block button here, and there's a reason for all of this, and I think I'll just let Steven explain why.
6 buttons is kind of daunting for a new player to look at and say, oh, I'm going to play this game? Well, I'm just going to smash the buttons and try to win that way. Not really.
6 buttons. Now games have fucking, like 20 something? L1, R1, L2, R2, Z. You got, depending on which controller you're using, an A, X, B, Y, or X, square, circle, triangle. Then you have like the joysticks, and then the D-pad, and then if you're on computer playing some computer games, like you got your fucking World of Warcraft, where you can use the whole fucking keyboard for all your spells and shit like that. It's crazy. And this dude is talking about 6 buttons a little daunting for new players. Agreed. Fucking agreed, man.
Understand what the mechanics are like. So 4 buttons maybe allowed for the versatility and the complexity of the higher end skill combos, but also was less daunting for someone walking up to it and they're gonna button mash.
From a community standpoint, these buttons are often referred to as 1, 2, 3, and 4, similar to what we have now in games like Mortal Kombat, so I'll be using that throughout this video. Up Up next is the special move inputs, and this is where the most discussion tends to stem from when we talk about Primal Rage. In other fighting games, it is motion, then button. To throw a Hadouken, it's quarter circle forward and punch. To throw a spear, it's back low punch. Some games had charge inputs where you hold a direction and then you input another direction into a button. But in Primal Rage, you have to hold down certain buttons first and then input the motion. It's kind of in reverse. For example, if you want to do some of Armadon's specials, your projectile is done by holding down 2+4 and inputting back up forward. Spinning charge is done by holding 1+4 and inputting back forward down. Mega charge, which is Armadon's combo launcher, is hold 1+3 and input back down forward. Because the input system is so different to other titles, I can definitely understand where it can be a bit confusing to people at first. Like I said, the inputs are often what is talked about the most by fighting game hardcore. Stuff like, yeah man, I like the game, but I just couldn't figure out the moves. However, I will mention that by learning this game and figuring out each character for this video, it is kind of just another way of doing the moves. Once you know what they are, I didn't really have a lot of trouble. But one thing I will say is that they appeared very fight stick oriented. I had a much easier time doing these moves on a stick than on a pad because of the different buttons that you have to hold down. But again, remember, this was an arcade game first. As you might expect, I did talk to Steven about this, and he had an interesting answer for me. Again, remember, this is going off memory.
You mentioned that the technical mechanics of the input system is a little deeper than what appears on the surface. So one thing that I definitely can point to is that in the case of Street Fighter and every other fighting game that I can remember, I'm just guessing here, I haven't dug down into the mechanics, the special move execution is on the edge of the button, which means the special move executes when the button is pressed. However, in Primal Rage, I remember the engineer explaining this to me. There's different button states. There's the edge where you detect the button was pressed, and there's level when you are detecting that the button is pressed, and it's still pressed. So the point here is Primal Rage special moves activate on button level, which means you can have the button pressed and held down and then execute a special move with the joystick and it will fire. And that is a totally backwards way of executing a special move. Street Fighter, I don't believe, does it that way. It was a technique to make the input and the special moves more encompassing, more likely to fire. You know, Dragon Punch, it's like, forget about it. I can barely do it when I'm facing to the right. If I'm player 2, I'm facing to the left, I can't do a Dragon Punch. But with the button level system, it made complex input mechanics a little bit easier to perform. And you'll notice in Primal Rage, I don't believe we have any Dragon Punch inputs for special moves. It's all, you know, taps, double taps, quarter circles, and, you know, easy to do joystick mashing, joystick thrashing moves that are more likely to come out. There was kind of a sentiment, if I'm telling the story now, I'm not remembering facts. I'm telling the story of the development team in the lab creating these special moves, talking about button inputs, talking about combos, and just wanting to make the input system more accommodating to everybody, to all different styles, including high-end competitive play. I remember, and let me give another shout out to a very influential person on the team, Frank Kwan. That's Frank, Kuan, was the lead engineer, lead programmer on these input mechanics. And he's quite a character from the standpoint of he was really good at fighting games, and he would give the QA testers a run for their money. But he was able to play Primal Rage and other games in a very versatile style, where at some points he was very competitive and precise with his inputs, and other times he would intentionally be very sloppy. And it was Primal Rage and fighting games.
This is all very interesting shit that I'm trying to just focus and follow on what he's saying.
games were more than just a video game and input mechanics and executing those mechanics to Frank. It was the meta game of outside of the actual machine, outside of the actual video game, was the game of the psychological game of I'm standing right next to you, shoulder to shoulder, fighting you, and I'm going to slam the control panel as if I'm pressing a button, and I'm going to fake, and I'm going to feint, and I'm going to make snide comments, and I'm going to try to put you off your game with all of these other things that you would absolutely not get in an online fighting game, right? And you might get in a real competition where each player has their own control stick. But in the arcade, where you're smelling the person next to you essentially, and you are absolutely trash talking. The game extends to out of the game into the real world. Frank was very innovative insofar as he would say, well, let's try this for this special move. Let's make the special moves as simple as possible so they're really easy to do and really easy to combo together and really, sometimes accidental, where, for an expert player, they're going to find these mechanics and be able to string them together in the most effective way. And for, toddlers or people who are new to the game, they're going to button mash and they're going to find some special moves. And,
Look at this guy right here fucking spinning around in a circle. They're happy as fuck that their god won.
The example is try to button mash on Street Fighter. You just get a bunch of basic attacks usually. In Primal Rage, you're more likely to get some special moves that fly out there.
So really, the direction was for the arcade crowd. Good players will be able to figure out the moves and make it work, and players who go to an arcade to simply button bash will probably get the moves out by accident because of how the specials function. Worth mentioning that in later revisions of Primal Rage, more traditional inputs were added, so you can do the movement first and then the buttons. But for this video, I'm still mostly doing the specials the original intended way. It is fun once you get the moves down. But in those later revisions that gave you the option of both, more input tech starts to exist that makes the trickier combos a lot more possible. What I mean by that is if you want to combo sweep into teleport as vertigo, for instance, the input is sweep, and then while holding 2+4, you press down up into some air normals. It's pretty tricky to pull off, but if you follow the updated controls that let you do motion first, you can basically do your down sweep input, which counts as the down press for teleport, and then just press up into 2+4, and the whole thing links together. Giving players the option to do classic input or traditional input gave the more advanced combos extra ways to get the job done. I like it. Primal Rage.
Interesting. Fuck, I don't know.
Rage did not have a large roster. The reality is, the puppets took a long time to make and animate. It was a labor of love, and although time-consuming, resulted in fantastic results for '94. I still find it visually impressive to this day. So, you have some unique characters like Armadon, Vertigo, and Talon, but then you have Chaos and Blizzard, who are palette swaps with different sizes, and then Sauron and Diablo in the exact same way. But every character functions differently, and that's what I want to cover right now. The quick rundown of every character in the game, and what made them interesting from a mechanical point of view.
Damn.
Sauron is
Fuck it, I'm gonna do the whole video, why not?
First on our list. A lot of his moves do big damage to the stun meter, and he's generally an all-round brawler. Now I can't...
that's what the brain is. It's a stun meter. Got it.
Really go too much into detail with this character for this video, as the best way to capture arcade Primal Rage at the moment tends to be the PC version of Midway Arcade Treasures, which is what I'm recording with for this video. Unfortunately, it is a bit bugged with Sauron, as certain moves have way less recovery than they should have, making him play in a way that isn't...
The people are getting off cheese. I think that happens whenever you're just using the same move over and over again.
Fully true to the arcade experience. He's the best character in this build, but not for the right reasons. Diablo is more similar to what this palette swap should be on arcade. He's a bit smaller but has a lot more projectile options, and a teleport. Diablo is a character who is really good at controlling the space, but it's the different angles the projectiles have that gives him more variety to do that. Additionally, there is this close range fire blast which stuns the opponent. There's an element of mix up there too. Armadon is pretty much the Shoto of the game, your typical Ryu style character. A projectile, good range normals, nice combo potential with a launching charge, and an uppercut attack which functions as a reversal and is extremely active. I learned this game with Armadon, and the character just has strong fundamentals all round. Talon is your typical design of small and agile, with a decent amount of rushdown tools. Talon is fast, aggressive, and can totally shred once you get into close range. Vertigo is the game's main zoning archetype. You have massive reach on a lot of buttons, projectiles, a stun attack, which is an extremely good anti-air, but also some impressive combo potential. The combos just tend to not do a ton of damage by themselves, most likely because of his range design. Vertigo has a teleport, and this gives you a lot of control over where you go, and you can piece all of these moves together for some extremely fun sequences. Chaos is super gross. Farts, vomit, I mean, it's basically Bo Raicho before Bo Raicho. But Chaos is smaller than Blizzard, and has various offensive tools. An unblockable grab, which can lead to setups, a launching shoulder charge, which is your combo tool, an unblockable air ground pound, which is very cheeky indeed. Your goal is to get in close and bring out the unpredictability factor, coupled with scary air options. Both Chaos and Blizzard both have this spinning back fist that links into more buttons and is a crucial combo tool. Blizzard takes this to the next level as the game's most consistent combo machine. Same normals as Chaos, along with the back fist for linking stuff together, but Blizzard has two stun attacks. One is a freeze breath, but the main one is this ice pillar, as you can combo into it and extend combos a lot further. Importantly, and something I'm actually about to cover anyway, is that this game has universal overheads, when coupled with characters' low options, gives Blizzard an overhead low mix-up game that the ice pillar makes a lot deadlier. Blizzard is more vulnerable to the larger combos, however, as he is a lot bigger than Chaos and is more ground-oriented. The roster has a nice blend of styles, and the palette swap characters, although they share the same normals and stuff, which was common at the time, have vastly different specials that make them play very differently to each other. But with the difference in size also being quite dramatic, how easy it is to hit the opponent does play a big part in the game.
Bro, this is all completely new to me. I had no idea that not only this game, but that fighting games in general were this deep. Like, I never really thought about the advantages and disadvantages that players had based on like I know there's certain characters, like for Street Fighter, for example, like characters have different special moves or different techniques that they use. Like one person might be better at grabbing and the other person's better at shooting fucking Hadoukens and shit like that. Like, I get all that, but down to like the model size and like anti-air ground style fighting, like all that shit is, I never took the time to think about it. Like, if you were a good Ryu player and you were a good Ken player, like, okay, you're evenly matched. I had no idea that this person would have an advantage over you based off of what I just said. Like, he has an advantage over kicking, because I don't know. I never thought about any of that shit. We just played the game because the cool monsters. That's as deep as we went with it.
I found myself personally enjoying Armadon, Chaos, and Vertigo the most. They all play very differently, so it's been a great way to explore the game, as it were. One of the biggest things I want to get across in this video is that Primal Rage has some pretty sophisticated features for a game that predates something like Mortal Kombat 3, for example. There were things in place that, yeah, sure, we expect them in games today. But back then, these were not common at all. In some cases, Primal Rage was one of, if not the first fighting game to feature some of them. And let's list them off. You have
Okay.
your health bar at the top, which is nothing new, obviously, but in this game, you can get stunned if you take too much damage in a close proximity.
Same with Street Fighter.
Stun as a mechanic, again, wasn't a new thing, but your stun progress is actually visible under.
Yeah, I was about to say that in Street Fighter, it doesn't show like a bar or anything like that, or at least in the original, it didn't.
Beneath the health bar, which is what the little brain icon indicates. Being able to see your stun was a clear direction from the design team, and it all comes down to giving the players as much information as possible, as Steven told me when I asked about it. Movement is another key factor. You haven't got forward dash, back dash, or run, but you have a super jump by inputting down and then up. This super jump is extremely strong for closing in space and being aggressive, but at the same time, there is another jump that allows you to basically jump cancel certain attacks. This was a glitch in other games, but in Primal Rage was an intentional feature. When an opponent is noticeably low on health compared to their opponent, a rage mode mechanic activates. This gives the defender a bit more damage and comeback potential, but the actual startup animation of this mode is fully invincible to give the defender some time to escape the pressure. This animation is different for every character. There is built-in exploit or infinite protection. If you try and do a certain move in a situation that it could be unblockable or guaranteed, or if a move used too many times could result in an infinite combo, there's a little icon that comes up. It says, "No cheese allowed." This obviously does open up a discussion over whether or not this protection is a better feature over something like.
I think it is. Fuck it, man. You just keep doing the same move over and over and over again without trying to combo. Fuck you. Now you can argue, well, then it's your job to escape the combo, but to the other points of the video where like different characters have different game mechanics and different styles of play, there are some characters that just have that style that just, it's easy to do these combo moves and their combos are just way fucking better than the other players. And so if a person picks that character, you already know, like, dude, you're about to just press the same fucking attack over and over again because that guy has an unblockable. Like for Mortal Kombat 3, Noob Saibot, he had this special move where he just dives into the floor and then comes up right under you and grabs you and does like a suplex on you or some weird shit. And the only way to block it would be to like jump out of the way. You couldn't block it. It's because it was a grab. And I was... This girl, one of our fucking roommates, obnoxious bitch, she would play that character and pick it and just keep beating everybody by pressing the same move over and over and over again. She didn't press any other button. But then once we figured her out and you just jump out the way, then it was better. But I like this mechanic because it allows fucking cheesy ass little bitches like that to not be able to just pick the same character and do the same fucking moves over and over and over again.
Changing hit properties on a second or third hit, but again, when I asked Steven about this, it came down to player information once more. This was an arcade game, and if you're playing it for the first time, or maybe first few times, the infinite protection with a clear visual indicator was seen as a better way to go, so a player isn't confused as to why their stun attack only stuns once in a combo or something. Combos have unique names depending on size and the moves used in them. Now, you can definitely compare this directly to Killer Instinct, which also had a combo naming system, but Primal Rage did have its own way of popping off when a player did impressive combos. The burst of lightning and the sound effects was another clear direction to garner attention to the machine and to make the player feel like a god. It's all about pandering to the ego back then. Now I teased this talking about Blizzard, but yes, universal overheads were crucial to opening up the opponent, coupled with the fact that you can't actually die to chip damage in this game. The universal overhead can be special cancelled, so it's not just about the threat of a single hit in this situation. Some characters got impressive damage from their overhead low mix-up, Blizzard being probably the earliest standout example here, because you can do low slide or overhead slam into stunning ice pillar, and cash out into great damage. The low puts them airborne, so you can't get a major combo, but the overhead keeps them grounded, so it's back fist city. It gives every character a chance to get their offense on deck, so it's something that's worth practicing for sure. Another factor to the game's combos is that air attacks have chains attached. You can get 2 different jump attacks that will chain off of a single button in the air, which gives better pressure from the jump in, but also huge damage on hit. If you get a meaty neutral jump on the opponent's knockdown, use this 2-hit chain into something on the ground, and it's a lot of damage. The combo system in general is a mixture of chains, links, juggles when you knock them into the air. It was nice and diverse, and you have a lot to mess around with. I mentioned jump cancels a minute ago, and that comes down to a tiger jump. Forward, down, up inputs a new jump system that you can cancel air buttons into, but the way it comes out means that instant jump attacks can be devastating for combos or pressure. Characters with stuns can use this tiger jump to attain larger combos into a lot more damage, but the way this jump works means that the game takes things up a notch in PvP, because this is a damage, pressure, and mobility tool all in one. And it's universal, so everybody can do it. Use the tiger jump after Vertigo's stun to cash out more damage than you could before. Hit the low slide into a stun with Blizzard. You can't get a grounded combo here, but you can tiger jump cancel a standing button into an air button and then air throw to cash out more damage.
Bro, this video is not what I expected to be. I thought he was just going to go over like Primal Rage and the story. And this dude's going like in depth, each character, their strengths, their weaknesses, the button mechanics, all this shit, like much deeper than I remember. This video is much deeper than I thought. I thought I was just gonna have like a little nostalgia trip for like in 30 minutes to talk about all the cool shit that I remember, but I'm not reacting much because I'm like kind of blown away by what the fuck this dude is talking about.
When I talk to Hanzo about what has kept him playing Primal Rage so many years later, it all comes down to the innovation. He said to me, and I quote, "Combo damage with percent counter, universal overheads to all characters, air chains into air specials, the aforementioned juggle chains and links in a same combo, OTG attacks, stun damage bar visible, infinite protection, 3 types of jumping, attack jump cancels, pseudo alpha counter system, interactive environments, lots of hidden Easter eggs and even minigames, and a long list of features that were not present in other games of those years and years to come." So I guess that really goes to show just how much Hanzo likes the game, I think.
Yeah.
As we're now reaching the end of our Primal Rage story, there was something that Stephen mentioned to me that really stuck out in the hour or so that we were talking. The importance of the 2 QA testers involved in the arcade project. Instead of me saying it, I'm just going to let Stephen take it away.
Okay.
As far as the team being on board with the mechanics, so I must have come in the middle of the development cycle for Primal Rage. The concept had been fully vetted, the puppets had been created, the stop motion lab was pumping out animations, and Frank and others were busy in the lab creating the combos and the moves. And apart from Frank and apart from Chris Tang, I think, who came in even on the further tail end, maybe at the very end of original Primal Rage, apart from those 2 people and maybe Cam Petty, the QA testers were actually the best players, the most highly skilled fighting game players. And so we didn't have a really highly skilled bunch of developers or people we could talk to say, hey, is this game controlling to your expectations? I think part of the appeal of the mechanics of Primal Rage was that it wasn't very highly influenced by very complex input mechanics like Street Fighter at the time. And, so the marketing people could play the game and enjoy it. The other engineers could play the game and enjoy it. The artists could play the game and enjoy it, and not feel on a different, not only on a different playing field, but on a different planet from the QA testers who just wiped the floor with them. At least if you button mashed and you joystick waggled, some special moves would come out, and you'd have a chance of getting some shots in with the QA testers. So it wasn't so much a sense of a team buying into the mechanics. It was just a couple ideas coming in from Frank primarily, and Cameron and me and the QA testers to say, hey, we want a fighting game for me. We want a fighting game for us so that we can feel like the most awesome combo masters and crush everybody else, because the system allows us to do that. But necessarily, if you make the system more encompassing, more welcoming, more accessible with the way that you perform the special moves and string the special moves together. And it wasn't really until Primal Rage 2, and I don't remember where some of the air mechanics and some of the jump mechanics, like the quick forward hop and the long jump, were introduced. But those were the kinds of things that catered both to the expert player who wanted that level of control over the characters, and to the novice player who is not going to understand what special move interrupt timing windows are all about, and how you can string them together, how you can cancel out of a jump to perform a move or whatever. The new player is just going to say, oh, the controls feel very responsive, and the expert player is going to say, oh, the controls allow me to string moves and special moves together in creative ways.
Damn. That's very interesting. That's all I have to say. Interesting. Man.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Not only was it was absolutely necessary to be able to test new mechanics, and the combination of those new mechanics with other mechanics with expert fighting game players. And Jay and Larry were those experts. Jay Peoples, Larry Catalina, name drop. They were instrumental in developing the fighting game mechanics from a QA standpoint. I mean, they were just there to test the game, but they were testing it in such a way that, yeah, these mechanics feel good, and they don't diminish any of the other mechanics. They fit in well. They're not exploitable, and I can feel even more like a badass when I'm performing these mechanics. So they were vetting new mechanics and combinations. They were kind of verifying that these mechanics were a good direction to go in, because we could have just copied Street Fighter and everything would have been just fine. But I think the atmosphere on the development team with QA, they were not just there to test the game and find bugs. They were there to allow the development team to push the envelope of mechanics and to try new things and to make suggestions. And when we would get a new special move in, they would say, oh, this is too easy, this is cheesy, this does too much damage, or oh, hey, as Chaos, I can string together 3 spinning back fists, one after another, spinning back fist charge, spinning back fist charge, spinning back fist charge, and I can do that over and over. So we would have to tune damages, we would have to tune animation timings, we would have to tune hitboxes, because these guys were so good at what they did that they would quickly allow us to find the holes in the mechanics and adjust any of those things I mentioned before: damage, hitbox, animation, the movement, in order to make the game more fair. And yeah, they had their biases. I think Larry preferred Chaos. He liked the little ape.
The fart and shit.
And a lot of the I think their names appear in some of the combo names, which is funny. But they were kind of like, yeah, we're getting paid hourly, but we are stars. We wanted them to feel like they were part of the development team and not just, oh, hey, write us some bugs and find bugs in the game. No, they were absolutely instrumental in helping guide the development of the Primal Rage fighting mechanics.
That's crazy. That, man, imagine being so fucking good at a video game that the creators of another game call you in and be like, hey, you're really good at playing first-person shooters. We want you to play our game. I guess it's more noticeable nowadays because you have like streamers and whatnot, so you can kind of see how they make their money and what they get invited to, like all these game cons and shit like that. But back in the day, I would have had no fucking idea. Like, being good at a video game is just a waste of fucking time. I mean, to your parents and shit like that, like to your friends, like, dude, bragging rights. Or if you pass the controller when you lose, if you're good, you never have to pass the controller. Give the controller up. So that was about it. I never dreamt about, like, if I got really fucking good at Counter-Strike, then I could make millions of money in a Counter-Strike tournament. Millions of money, millions of dollars in a Counter-Strike tournament. Or the next time they make another Counter-Strike game, they'll fucking call me in to test out the mechanics. Like, I never thought of any of that shit. I always just felt like a loser that was just like really big into games and smoked too much weed.
The importance of
Which I don't think much has changed.
QA testers who were also talented fighting game players, being able to break down the features added to the game at such a pace that the design team were able to be so much more confident about the stuff they put in, developing a real relationship with the testers and trusting them into the development process. It seems so much to me that Primal Rage as a fighting game was made by fighting game fans for fighting game fans. And after speaking to Steven for as long as I did, it gave me such insight into how Primal Rage became a much more mechanically deep fighting game than I'm sure most people remember or expected. And for me, the rabbit hole just got deeper and deeper. It's been a very good time. Primal Rage was not a game that had a massive competitive following during its arcade times, or even now. But those that have a deep passion for the game and can break it down at the highest level have kept those mechanics alive and well. And Hanzo was truly irreplaceable in getting this video together. He's had the odd session with other community members in the past, and it's always fun watching their sets and exhibitions because you learn so much about the game in a short space of time. I'm going to make sure to link all of the MK Venezuela info in this description, because Hanzo adds constant uploads to his own channel about Primal Rage and many other games of this time period. There was definitely something to be said about the arcade goer who favored the Western-made, more mature-themed fighting games. I've certainly known arcade heads that played Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, and Primal Rage together in the 90s, but that is another topic entirely. Hopefully this video gave some insight into a real classic of the early 90s, and for a game that had such care put into its mechanics, but those mechanics often are not talked about, I really hope this video was able to do the game justice. Steven and the rest of the Primal Rage team from so many years ago, thank you for all the hard work. If you're ever at an arcade and you see a machine in the distance, do yourself a favor and give it a go. Shout outs to the Primal Rage fans.
Alright, he's just kind of doing closing video stuff here. Go watch his video, support his channel, PND, K&M, whoever the fuck that is. But this was a very much deeper video than I thought. And this game is much deeper than I remember for sure. And this gives me a different perspective on fucking all fighting games, just in general. Hell yeah, man. Peace. Bye.